Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. I am here at my own home in Virginia on my front porch outside in some beautiful spring sunlight. It is perfect temperature out here today, guys. So I hope you hear and get to hear all these bird noises around me. And so, yeah, just if you hear anything weird happening in the background, now you know why. Um, so, in the last video I did, or podcast episode, whatever you guys, I keep saying, I constantly am saying, whatever you guys want to call it. So, I literally mean, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm not particular. Um, whatever you guys refer to this as. I was talking a little bit about some hobbies and recently getting a lot more into hunting. So that was one of the big things that I focused on. So I wanted to just talk really quickly in this episode um, about how I got more into hunting and how you can get a little bit more into hunting and and just give maybe some tips and ideas and stuff at the end if we have time. So yeah, I want to just go back to really the beginning. Because I grew up in the city, guys, and I lived on probably about a 1 acre plot with fence to fence like houses, so the neighbors could see pretty much everything I was doing. I was very fortunate to have a grandfather who was really into hunting. Other than that, my family is really not big time hunters. It was it Yeah, my grandpa was really just the only one, but he like hugely influenced me. And me and my dad always talked about when we finally got property and moved to the country, which was kind of like our family dream. We would be into hunting, which has really worked out great for us with opportunities and things like that around us. So one of the things that was really, and this might sound funny to you guys, is just like I was able to shoot airsoft guns, able to shoot Nerf guns. I mean, I've always just grown up like shooting things, uh, whether it's toy guns or. And I didn't really get to shoot. The funny thing is, I didn't get to shoot like real guns until I was like. I mean, I shot a couple times when I was little, but at like my grandpa's house, but it was very few shots, and I didn't know a ton until we moved to the country and when I was about 14, and from there I really just like took off like a rocket and learned. I've gained so much knowledge by now, and just it's super cool to look back and see where you were then and where you are now. Um, so yeah, I'm not one of those kids who just like grew up in the country around guns. I grew up very much in the city. But one of the things that our family loved to watch, shows like Alaska, The Last Frontier, or gosh dang, what's the other ones? There's some survival shows. I think it was Dual Survival. Um, just a ton of different like Alaskan shows, especially. And so a lot of those shows featured hunting and fishing and just lots of really cool stuff. And it really excited me, and I dreamed of being able to do that. I remember sitting in my room and I would build these big rifles out of like Legos and imagine like hunting a lion or a bear or some like giant animal. And so I had some awesome like dreams of just being able to finally hunt. And I'll save that for another video. Um, but yeah, so I constantly was like wanting to hunt things. I would always look out the back window at our city house and be like, "Oh gosh, there's all those squirrels running around," and I would just want to like go out and and hunt these squirrels. And but I was always worried that the neighbors would see, and if I was carrying around my BB gun or whatever and like freak out, because yeah, and it was just yeah, there was not very much freedom to be able to do that. Um, so yeah, but anyways, really what took off for me was uh, when we moved to the country and I finally got to be able to hunt around and look for things. I would take my BB gun out and I would do the classic, 13, 14-year-old, 12, and probably most of you guys grew up in the country got to do this when you were like 12. or 8 or whatever, whenever you got your first BB gun, would just walk around and look for birds or squirrels or whatever, and you just shoot at everything you could. And so I did that for a long time, and then I figured out that that was not a good idea, not usually legal for most species and things like that, and there were seasons to things. And so yeah, that luckily kind of stopped me from doing all that. But when I turned 14, I think it was the Christmas after I turned 14, um, me and my dad had taken a hunter safety course to get our hunting licenses, and my grandfather had told me if I got past that hunter safety course that I would get his old double barrel 12 gauge shotgun, which I still have, and that is really like one of my most like cherished guns just because of the all the memories that it holds. Um, and I mean that thing has dropped some of the giant like these big bucks that my grandpa has killed. He's got mounted on his walls and stuff. So um, so that is a prized position. So when he brought that over on that Christmas after I got my certification, my dad got his certification. He opened up the trunk and let me shoot it, and and the funny thing is he handed it to me, and I don't think I'd ever shot a shotgun by this point, and so I put this shotgun up to my shoulder, and he's like, "Don't worry about your pro, it'll be fine," because this is like I think it was maybe high brass. I think there was one high brass and one low brass, or something like that. And so I shot, and just remember my ears ringing so loud, and I was like shaking so bad. I mean, it almost knocked me over because I was just not used to it. And now I love shotguns. I can shoot shotguns all day long. But that was just like my first experience with all that. And when he gave me that, he also gave me his old Ruger 1022, which is really one of like the classic, most like classic 22 LR rimfire rifles out there. So so that was like really like the center of where my actual hunting got to like take off from. And so I remember my neighbor telling me about these because we live beside a farmer who has greenhouses and tons of fields for soybeans and wheat and whatever he grows throughout the year. And so he was telling me about these groundhogs uh, that come out, and so he was telling me he gave me some advice on what to do and to go like sit behind something or and just wait and see if these groundhogs would come out with my 22. So I begged my dad to come out with me and so I could take my 22 out there and go sit in the field and I remember the first night me and my dad went and we sat on this hill, and my dad was just like chilling. He just like laid back like he was gonna take a nap, and I looked down at my lap for a little bit, and then I look up, and there's this groundhog sitting down there. It was a really small groundhog, and so I just threw that rifle up and like was shaking so bad and like jerked the trigger and probably missed by like a foot to the left, and this groundhog went right up in his hole, and so really that was kind of my first official like hunting experience, and from there I hunted groundhogs like crazy that summer, and I think I got 2 or 3 more in that first summer, and it was just like the best experience of my life. I learned a lot just from sitting out there in the field and shooting these groundhogs, and it was an awesome experience, and so and then I didn't eat those, just so you know. I don't like the idea of even like skinning groundhogs. If you've ever been up close to them, they're warty and nasty. And the only reason I kill them is because a groundhog can eat up to 5 acres of crops, just a single groundhog. So you've got to take care of them and keep them the population low, or they will literally eat up they're a detrimental pest to farmers. So so yeah, that's one of my first experiences. Um, and then I remember another one is I actually I wasn't able to take out my 22 usually unless um, I had like permission from my parents and or they came with me or whatever when I wanted to shoot. And so when I would, because this was when I first got my own guns, and still only like 14, 15. Um, and so, uh, actually, I might have been, no, I wasn't 13. It was about 14. And so, and I remember another experience of when I asked my buddy if I could borrow this air rifle because he hated this. It was like one of those like $80, $60, whatever, pump up like air guns. It was one of the classic Daisy. It was a piece of junk, is what he thought, and I was like, I want to try to get this thing sighted in and play around with it, and it was just like a 177 caliber, and so I got some pellets, and he basically just gave it to me because he had a bunch of like 22 break actions and stuff that he thought were way cooler. Um, and so I remember sighting that thing in one night, and then the next morning I took it out and I shot a squirrel. And I think this was probably in the summer, so I was a little bit scared to eat it. It was actually, I think it was about springtime, so it was probably still fine. But I shot this squirrel out of a tree, and I eventually, and it took like 3 or 4 shots. It was not very ethical, but um, and I was just remember, guys, I was not very educated at this point, and I was still growing, so have grace for me. Um, but so I went and I got this squirrel and watched some videos online on how to clean it and skin it, uh, and that was the first thing that I ever cleaned, and it was really cool. And so since then I've gotten to do a lot more. Just it took off, and now I've done a couple different deer seasons. Killed a few deer, skinned a couple deer, watched a lot of other people skin and kill deer, and gone on. I recently got to go on a pheasant and quail hunt, and that was really cool. So yeah, that's kind of just the basics of my hunting experience, and I can go into hunting stories all day. So if you guys want to hear those, I would totally be happy to just go episode by episode and just give you a hunting story each episode. Um, but I don't want to get too into depth. And so one thing I want to just talk about really quick before I end this episode is when I was still in the city, and you guys might be in the same situation of saying, hey, how can I get out and hunt when I don't have anywhere that's my own property to hunt? And a lot of people, you might have someone in your family, you might not, maybe you just need to go meet people, but there's a lot of people that'll be like, hey, yeah, come out and either like hunt with me and my buddies, because there are a lot of really cool people that would just like love to have you come hunting with them, or you can get permission sometimes, just hunt these guys' farms for deer season or whatever. But just I highly recommend just asking around, looking for some property that someone will let you do a little bit of hunting on. Maybe it's even just squirrels. Just try your hand at it. Get into it, and of course, don't go into it inexperienced. Make sure you talk to someone who's done it before. If you've never done it before, watch. And online is such a good resource to really just find a lot of things about safety. A lot of it, the thing about online is a lot of it can be false too, so you have to be careful. But just find some information about it, look into it, research it, think about every aspect, every step of what you're going to have to do on your hunt, whether that's cleaning, killing, recovering, all that stuff. So you guys, I just highly recommend that you ask around for permission to hunt places, or just do whatever you can to get out in the woods and hunt, guys, even if you live in the city, because it is really like just one of the best things that you can do. Especially as a guy, and there's tons of female hunters too, guys. Not as many, but I highly recommend, whether you're a girl or a guy, please get in the woods, because you will not regret it. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode. Sorry it was kind of short. I don't have a ton of time, but I do want to put some more stuff out. So if you guys want to hear those stories or anything like that, please let me know. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.